Good afternoon, everybody. I hope that you are all able to see the screen and hear us clearly. But I wanted to say thank you for joining us this afternoon and welcome. This is the Affirmative Marketing of Affordable Units webinar. I know that you've all received the invitation because you were able to register for this webinar. What we're going to cover today is how to list and find affordable, accessible, and permanent supportive rental housing on the Los Angeles County Housing Resource Center website. And also we're going to highlight some partner websites where the information, it's all shared information, but there's some other websites that are partners of the one that you are looking at right now, and regardless of where your information is registered, it can be displayed across all of those websites. So again, thank you so much for joining us today. Who is going to be conducting this webinar is myself. My name is Sheila Roberts, and I am the Region Support Manager for the Housing Locator for Emphasis Software. Also on the phone is Nina Miller. Nina Miller is the Director of Operations for the Housing Locator for Emphasis Software. And also on the phone, many of you I know Larry Noonan, and Larry is the Project Manager for the LA County Community Development Commission. And Larry and I are going to be sharing time on this webinar. I'm going to be going over certain features and doing some demonstrations, covering highlights of our service. And then I'm going to also share the presentation with Larry, who is also going to go in. He's going to go in and highlight our supportive housing coordinated entry system. It also covers our special needs populations. And just so you'll be able to see what's available to you and for case managers that are going in and looking for your information on the system, and how important it is to capture detailed information about the system. So I am seeing a note that you keep cutting in and out from Stephanie Garrett. Is there anybody else that's having that problem? You know, right now, hopefully, Larry and Nina, who are on the phone, they can hear me clearly still. And
yes.
Yes.
Please feel free to jump in and say hi to everybody listening in.
Great. Hi, this is Larry Noonan. And Sheila, I can hear you fine.
Okay, Stephanie, I see that says you keep cutting in and out. I am going to hand over the presentation now that we've done the introductions. I am going to let Larry jump in and address the audience so he can provide a brief history of his relationship, how we started this service, and then Nina is going to come on and expand some of the relationships that we have established with some of the agencies present in the audience today that serve the community of Los Angeles, and also provide some context in terms of a nationwide perspective, talk about our footprint, talk about how large the service is, how we are able to serve, how many searches there are, how many people there are looking for housing in your community, and the opportunities and the need inherent in those. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to Larry. Oh, and real quickly, just a few housekeeping items because we're going to try to stay on task. We're covering a lot of information, and we want to cover that in under an hour to give you time to get some questions answered if you have any. We're going to ask that you hold your questions to the end. We are recording this webinar, so if you type in your question, I'll be able to get a record of those questions because what you're asking could be valuable information to share with others participating in the webinar today. And we also want to stress that this type of webinar, and we can make it more interactive in a smaller setting. It can be a GoToMeeting where it's just open, nobody's muted. But we can do these type of webinars for your organizations or for anybody that you would think would benefit from learning more about the system, and as we highlight how to use the system. If property providers especially would benefit from learning about how to quickly and easily get their information into the system, we are available to do that. But the end, and Larry, please take over.
Oh, thanks, Sheila, and good afternoon, everyone. So this is Larry Newnham. I work for the LA County Community Development Commission in the Economic and Housing Development Division, and part of my role is a supervisor for housing development. I'm also the project manager for County Housing Resource Center, which is it was funded by the County Board of Los Angeles, and it has ongoing funding from the County Board under the Homeless Prevention Initiative, the first Homeless Prevention Initiative of 2006. So it started out as just a database for housing and a resource, and we'd looked into national companies and vendors that manage this type of website, and we saw that socialserve.com was a national nonprofit that impressed us with their managed housing locator system, and one of the things that impressed us was the fact that they have a toll-free call center and other features that Sheila will go into. So this is it is a county program. It is a county website that we learned because of the source of funding was it started out under the Homeless Prevention Initiative, and we quickly learned that there was a big appetite for this type of resource, and we got a lot of usage right off the bat, and we realized that there was such a high demand for resources for workers and people looking for that type of housing that we've continued to make that a high priority of what the website does. Early on, the city of Pasadena became a partner, and that helped us lead to other partnerships. The representatives from Pasadena and Los Angeles Housing and Community Investment Department are sitting in on this webinar, and so they're valued partners that we'll talk about briefly. And then the last thing is another thing that we learned about this website that we think increased its value and legitimized its value is just how it serves to help market, to do affirmative marketing for accessible units. So in the arena of fair housing, this has turned out to be a really good tool that we're proud of and continue to expand. We'll talk more about that later. So you can see some of that history on the About Us tab. But Sheila, you have the wheel, and I'm going to turn it over back to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Larry. Yes, a lot of the features, the important points that Larry just mentioned, we are going to be covering in the demonstration. Basically, we just want to help everybody understand how information is shared on the system, how specific property information is found on the system. We'll also quickly cover just how to register your units. But before we get into that, I want to go ahead and turn it over to Nina Miller, who can share some national perspective, a little more background on how we operate across the country. It's really such a well-established system. We've got a long partnership with Larry and his organization, and because of the partnership, we have been able to enhance the system, to put so many ideas. I mean, it's a true partnership. So much of his suggestion improvements and enhancements has gone into the system to really make it such more of a useful tool for all of the stakeholders. But I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Nina before I walk through, and thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Sheila, and hopefully everyone can hear me. I wanted to briefly speak to the history of the organization just very quickly as it applies to the work that we're doing in Los Angeles County. This website really started as an idea to help quickly relocate families that face housing barriers. So initially, we were working specifically with families facing homelessness, and our mission really grew to encompass all populations that have difficulty in locating housing. And to achieve that, we wanted to create a one-stop shop for all affordable housing, where the listings could be comprehensively described in terms of the wide range of features that families need in order to be long-term sustainable in a housing unit. We really wanted to not only minimize the number of days that families were in a transitional housing situation, but we wanted to ensure long-term comfortability and sustainability in a housing unit. So that's really where this started. And starting in our immediate community in Charlotte, North Carolina, we have grown significantly over the last 15 to 20 years. We have systems exactly like the one that Sheila's going to walk through today in 37 states, and do cover most of the large metro regions in the country, including Atlanta and New York City, Houston. And we're very proud of what the system has accomplished. So common goal of increasing access to affordable housing and ensuring that people have quality real-time information at their fingertips. Larry did mention our call center. It's really important that they're sort of at the front of any conversation that takes place around this resource, because even though, as you'll see as Sheila clicks around, the website is quite easy to use, and we're actually in the process of doing another modernization push where the search interface is going to be even more slick than what you'll see today, and sort of align more with what you're used to seeing in a Zillow or Trulia style search. So it is very easy to use. It's fully accessible for individuals using assistive technology devices, including screen readers and helmet pointers. It's easy to access and navigate the site with any of those tools. It's also able to be translated into, I think, up to 60 languages now through Google Translate. So all of that is in place when it comes to the web interface itself. But we've found it absolutely critical that there be a customer service center in place to help connect people to the information. That was our original purpose for standing up the call center. We wanted people to be able to dial a toll-free number to get listings provided to them by phone. The call center really grew to do much more than that, and they work very frequently with property providers because the call center is so well versed at supporting a wide range of housing programs. They're able to speak to the different benefits of working with different populations very eloquently. They know how to work with property managers, small mom and pops to the largest management companies in the country, and help to facilitate and streamline the listing of units, because we know that we want to make it as easy as possible for property providers to interact with the system so that we can increase the number of listings that we offer to consumers. So, and then they're also updating the listings, and this is really important because there's all kinds of internet listing services out there. Most of them do not have current information simply because it's very difficult to maintain availability. And so our call center helps to support that. It's very easy to log in and list a property. It's even easier to log in and update it. But, you know, as internet tools continue to modernize and become easier to access, we know that our call center helps to ensure that the information is as accurate as possible, and we're capturing unit turnover as much. I know our goal is real time. We don't always hit that goal just due to property managers being out or notifications not going through, but we work very, very hard every day to make sure that the information is accurate within the system. So we encourage anyone on this call, whether you're interested in just simply learning more about the search interface or the content of the listings, or you want assistance with listing your properties thoroughly so that consumers know what your properties have to offer. They can do a refined search tailored to their needs. You're getting more qualified callers. Whatever you may need assistance with in order to use this tool optimally, to do either carry out your work every day or do better business, please never hesitate to call the call center. They are open from 6 a.m. until 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. We have a number of different email addresses, and very frequently, as I'm sure Sheila will get into some of the restricted access listings and things like that, we can, if you represent a large management company or you just simply prefer to develop a relationship with one of our customer service staff, we can connect you with an individual that you can reach out to directly, sort of have in your back pocket for listing or managing any of your listings that you may post on the system. Currently, and this is quite extraordinary, in Los Angeles, we in the past year have seen over 3 million searches for affordable housing, which is so far beyond any of our other areas that we serve. And just to give you an idea, it's, I think, 6 or 7 times more than what we're seeing in Atlanta, even more so than what we're seeing in New York. So it's just, as Larry said before, there's an appetite for this type of a service out there. Consumers, they want the quality information. They want to be able to be matched up with a list of units, not only that meets their needs, but also that they can be very confident is a recently updated posting. They like the call center support. They like that they can access the critically needed, accessible, and special needs housing. This is a highly needed and well-utilized resource. So a great place to market your listings. And what else did I want to say? I'll also mention the partnership that we currently have in place with Los Angeles Housing and Community Investment Department, again, to align with our goal to create a one-stop shop of housing. This is essentially one system. It's one common database. There are different features and different groups within that database and different permissions and access within that database. But if you list properties on this site, they will be posted across all of the partner sites that are a part of this family of services. And working with the group at HSID has been really a fantastic experience. We are about a year in. Our goal with them is to try to list their entire portfolio and to make sure that accessible units are detailed and thoroughly described so that we know that those critically needed units are being publicized to the individuals that really need them. So we're going to be hopefully kicking off a new wave of work with HSID to continue to populate the system with different parts of their portfolio. We are going to be working on some compliance goals with them to make sure that we can streamline the listing of the units and the availability of those units to the public. So we're very excited about that, and we have we're committed to a long list of goals across Los Angeles, and we're just really happy to see so many different groups come on board because we know that this service serves a number of needs across the housing continuum, and having one place to centralize that effort makes everything happen a little bit more smoothly. So I just wanted to speak to some of that while I had the opportunity. Larry, is there anything else you wanted me to touch on that I didn't cover? Oh, I guess I'd like to mention one other thing because I've talked about the call center. Part of our internal mission is to hire people that have also faced housing barriers in their life. So we work with individuals that are coming out of housing crisis, homelessness, incarceration, recovery. We work with highly motivated individuals that are interested in developing and fine-tuning a professional skill set. They are incredibly hardworking, compassionate individuals. We have about 55, 56 people in the call center right now, multilingual. We also use the language line service. So if somebody calls through the call center in a language that we don't speak here, at the call center that we can serve those needs. So a little more information on the call center, and I don't want to take up too much more time, Sheila. So unless there's anything else I should cover, I'll hand it back to you.
No, thank you so very much, Nina. Thank you very much. Like I said, if anybody has any questions about all of that valuable information that Nina just shared, let us know at the end of this, or just reach out to us directly, and we will be happy to answer any questions about that. But thank you. And what I'm going to go into now is I am going to give an overview of the website that I've been scrolling through, the free to use housing locator features. And what I also want to do just very quickly, I know everyone's been looking at the same screen for a while, but we wanted to make sure that we highlighted this, as we are going through this webinar, is why property registration is so critically important. As Nina said, over 3 million searches in the past year. The need is there. We need if properties are on the system, they are getting viewed on the system. We've all seen rental occupancy, is just tightening up. We've noticed coast to coast, and I know it's really critical in your area. And so property registration really is so important. As Nina had mentioned, it's the affirmative, it addresses a number of points. I mean, it's affirmative marketing of available units and open waiting lists. Through our Google Translate feature, through our bilingual call center, we're able to address so many of those fair housing marketing, affirmative marketing requirements, help you meet those affirmative marketing plans. We are best practices with affirmative marketing plans across the nation. Because we do market the accessible units, we capture all of those accessible features that can come with a unit. That we also indicate which units accept vouchers, not just Section 8 vouchers, but the VASH vouchers. That program has been growing, so much. There's so much need over these past couple of years. There's a large registry of properties, all sorts of properties, everything from market rate all the way down to fully subsidized. Having that robust inventory is so important, but also having the platform of those supportive housing units to help meet the need and to help caseworkers place their consumers. And it is in compliance with public lenders. As the stakeholders served through this, I know so much of this really is obvious, especially with everything we just talked about, but just to underscore the many different stakeholders served through the system, which is the public agencies and their partners, developers and management companies, so many of the SCAMF members, the CES SPA coordinators, service agencies, caseworkers, consumers, the general public, landlords, renters, the different types of voucher holders, the veterans and the VASH voucher holders, and persons with disabilities across the board. So to jump into the system, you saw me going to a couple of different places. We were trying to keep it interesting. I know sitting through a webinar and you're looking at the same screen, you can start to tune out. So we were trying to change the screen for you. There are, as Nina said, this is a very easy to navigate. It's a very intuitive website. But there is a lot of important pieces on this website. And so we encourage everybody in your own time to go into the website to discover the different types of information on here besides just the housing locator tool. Everything is very easy to find on the system. You've got your menu bars up top. We also have our web scroll here that highlights a number of important programs, and we regularly refresh and update this as well. Larry will let us know when there's programs that he would like to publicize on here. We will work with his agency to get information up there, and so also that it's featured prominently. some of the examples right here, like the leasing opportunities for affordable and accessible housing. This is a great way of showing and highlighting properties that either have open waiting lists or they are ready for unit capacity to be filled. The development phase is over. They're ready for occupancy. Going to pull one up. This property is at capacity now, but just an example of the kind of information that the general public would link to. Also up here, you can link directly to one of our partner sites. And this is that shared database we were talking about. So once your information is posted in the system, this is, another skin, it's another portal, so that different programs particular to these different agencies can be highlighted on their home websites. There is a landlord VIP program, renting to veterans, landlord veteran incentive program that we link to on the home site. Also very important to share is this consumer and business affairs. This is a great example of the type of button, the type of information you can find on the system that can be so helpful to agencies, to developers, to consumers. For example, right from that link, you go to the Department of Consumer and Business Affairs homepage, and here is all sorts of information about your rental unit, before you rent, things to keep in mind. Rental agreements, leases, rent control, credit checks, all the different components that you really need to consider. They've already built this information into their websites. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. We just point people to where they can find that information. And also I wanted to highlight our different partners. So important. On every page that you go to when you are within the system, you are going to see the partners highlighted. Also on here, if you go to Pasadena, there is the link to the Pasadena HousingSearch.com. Again, it's a different skin, but it is the same database of information. If you register as a landlord here, your information will still show across all of our partner pages. At the bottom of every single page, there is our toll-free number that will get you to that call center that Nina was referencing earlier. So this information is on each and every screen, and we always encourage our landlords and our property providers, especially when you're listing your information for the first time, to go and to use that call center, because that call center staffs in so quickly and efficiently, help get your information on the system, help get the detail that's so important to share about your property that's so needed by the public, and to also help you update your units. We regularly update our units so that consumers aren't looking at stale information or are trying to contact units that could have been rented out 6 months, a year before, and that call center can help with all of that, besides you being able to do that online. So I would like to illustrate a search on the system. Like I said, there is a lot of information on here. We can't encourage everybody enough to go in here and look. I'm not going to try to cover it all today, but please do. It's always being updated, a lot of useful information on here. So I am going in, and also this is not a test website. This is not on our server anywhere. This is the live public site. So if you would go to housing.lacounty.gov, this is exactly what you would see. And I know because of technology being how it is, a lot of times when I'm giving the presentations and the webinars, people are just able to go real time and follow me. So this is the live system. So as a consumer, if I am looking for housing, or if I'm a caseworker working with a consumer looking for housing, I'm simply going to find rental housing. There's a couple of different entry points. Go to find rental housing. The first thing you're going to see is a map of the area. And then there is a key to the map in the area. And then you can also search by name. Or you can search all of Los Angeles County. For the purpose of illustration, I'm just going to search all of Los Angeles County. So once you choose your geographic area, whether you go in through the map or by choosing a name or the entire county, you are going to come to your search criteria screen. And this search criteria screen, again, very intuitive. At the very top of the screen, here's that language widget, the Google language widget that we referred to earlier. All these screens can be translated into all of these different languages. Like Nina said, I believe it's up to 60 or 70 now. Or it can be quickly translated into Spanish. Our call center is also bilingual. Under your search criteria, there are 3 tabs. There's a basic search tab, there's an advanced search tab, and then there is an accessible tab. Also, down the right-hand side of the screen are more resources and tools to help consumers understand what they can afford to rent. Some buyer beware alerts. We want to make sure that we're equipping consumers and the caseworkers that work with those consumers with the most current information possible. And under your basic criteria tab is just that. It is very, very just basic information. Do you have the vouchers is the very first thing we start off with. Size, rent range, and a few optional filters. Under the advanced criteria tab, and this is the tab that our call center uses if they are working with a consumer or a caseworker on the phone, is under that advanced tab. It takes that same basic information and then provides a lot more detail so that consumers can really get a closer housing match. They can find units that more meet their individual needs. Once again, starting off with that voucher information, the optional filters have been expanded. This is where you can look specifically for senior housing, different types of senior housing. There are proximity searches. You can do a search by distance. Typing in a street address, very important when it comes to family members, place of employment, could be doctor's offices. And there is also this is for if it's a GPS, basically it's GPS enabled. So if you're working out in the field with your smartphone or if with your tablet, if you click on this button, it will do a search from where you're standing by using the GPS enabled features on your device. Other search options. You can do percentage of median income. You can do a keyword search, like maybe the name of a complex or a street name. The type of unit, this is used a lot. All different housing types are listed here. There's a lot of housing types on here. Security deposit, is there any flexibility? Is one required? Does rent include any utilities? And then there are a number of additional filters at the bottom. The most common that we see used is the unit, income-based rent. Do they accept subsidies? We have a number of consumers that move with their pets. They want to see if there's a pet policy. Credit checks, criminal background checks. We ask the landlords if they do a credit check or a criminal background check when we're gathering their information. Short-term lease is used a lot. You can also exclude properties on a waiting list. A number of our properties are on wait lists. We always show those to the consumer because we want to give people the option of signing on to those wait lists. But if they're in a position to where they don't have the option of time, they can exclude properties on wait list, and then they'll only pull up properties that are immediately available. And then that final tab is all of the accessible criteria that might be at a property or a unit. So we have it broken down to a number of categories: entry and door options, kitchen options, bathroom options, and a few miscellaneous options.
And I just want to add to this point, Sheila, and I know we're going to be moving on to some of the listing side and everything, but really quickly, the accessible fields, because some of you have some very specific accessibility fields. The search form is really just to get folks connected to the accessible accommodations that are most frequently searched for around entry, kitchen, and bathroom accessibility. But on the back end of the form, and particularly for some of the things that we're doing around accessible housing, we have many more fields that many of your properties probably have these features. So this is really just the top level, but on the back end, and we have call center staff that are specifically trained to walk property managers through some of the more specific features. So we do have a larger offering of accessible features within the form.
Thank you, Nina. Okay, well then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select some of these criteria so that I can go ahead and get the search results to post. I am going to go ahead and say yes, I have a Section 8 voucher. I'm going to do a ramped entry for mobility impaired. For size, I'm going to choose 1 or 2. For rent range, I'm going to max out at $1,000 a month. We always encourage that rent range stay at 0, because a lot of the sliding scale or income-based properties, their rent range will go down as far to starting off at a 0 point. To see all of the potential properties that might be available to a consumer. So by keeping that rent range at 0, you should be able to see everything. For senior housing, I am going to choose senior housing. That's all I want to see in this particular results. And I'm going to choose income-based or sliding scale rent. So I've chosen just a few criteria in here out of some of the sections, so you can see how this pulls up. Once you choose your criteria, you simply click here to search. And here is the search results page. We will be making some changes to this page, so immediately, that's the very first thing that jumps out to you right now. I'm going to quickly show you. I'm changing this screen right here. This screen, I'm going to try to show them closer next to each other. This is our live screen in the background. The screen I have in the foreground, we are changing our search results screen, and in a few weeks, this is what is going to render when you do your search results now. It's going to show all the same information that I'm about to show you, but as you can see, it's a completely different format. So if you are using the system in a few weeks and all of a sudden you get a page you've never seen before, because I know so many of you on the system are already familiar with this service and already use it, this is what you're going to see. And yes, you are still on the correct service. So very quickly, this is our search results screen. A lot of tools on here. Again, we're not going to go through all of them. I just want to point a few of them out. There's that translate feature at the top. There's now a printer-friendly button, which will quickly change how the page renders so that this information can be cleanly printed out and handed to a consumer or a caseworker, especially if there's a lot of properties. You can plot all of the properties on a map that match your results. The criteria that you choose is highlighted in the center of the screen. So this one lets us know that there's 9 properties matching the criteria that I chose. And here is all the different criteria that we chose. You can sort this information by a number of different criteria. Also want to show how you can plot these on a map. If you just hit plot on a map, you'll be able to see where they are located in the area. And then there are icons that are associated with the property information. So you can do a real quick visual association. Pictures, obviously, that's self-explanatory. Bilingual, except Section 8. There are some accessibility features. As you can see, as you land on each one of those icons, it lets you know what each one means. And we just share basic information: address, location, monthly rent, size, who to call, is it available or is it on a waiting list, and then there's the mapping feature again. Also, because we indicated Section 8, it lets you know what housing authority, if that area is served by a housing authority, and if so, which one, and that will be under the basic information. So you can see where that renders right there. I'm going to go ahead and choose Winnetka Village Senior Apartments. And by clicking on the address is where you can pull up the property detail. And here is all of the property detail that we collect from the property providers that register their information, list their information on the system. I cannot stress enough how important it is to get as much detail.
Sheila?
And there's lots of more information down at the bottom, but I'm going to go ahead and hand this presentation over to Larry so that he can walk through the supportive housing coordinated entry. We're going to be looking at the same property, and he's going to show you what different options are available by going in through a different entry point.
Well, Sheila, before you do that, because I don't think I'll go to this listing, let's just mention that one of the reasons we went to show Winnetka, because this is an example of affordable senior housing that has funding from both the CDC and HCID LA, and it has different categories of senior housing, and also has some units that are reserved for the Department of Health Services. But it's an example of how a property that has the public funding is being required to register. We don't know if they would have registered it without our requirements, but because of affirmative marketing, it is required, and it is showing up. There are some units here available to the public. So for that reason, it was critical for us that they get this listing up at the time of initial tenant selection, so that for affirmative marketing reasons and fairness, the public, the units that are available to the public, there are people that can see this on the website or through the call center. And then the actual tenant selection process, whether it's a lottery, which it probably is for seniors, that will leave up to the property manager and the developer. So that's why it's important to check the details in the listing. But we just wanted to show an example of a property that has two types of public funding in it.
Okay, well, thank you, Larry. Again, if there's any questions, surrounding this process, we'll try to address that at the very end. I know we're coming up on like the last 15 minutes, or you can reach out to us directly, and we're happy to work with you. But Larry, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you so that you can highlight those different components that we had discussed earlier. Are you ready?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, fantastic. Well, there you are. Okay,
everyone, thanks. This is actually my first time ever doing a webinar, so it's kind of interesting. it's kind of fun in a way. I wanted to, hopefully everyone is now seeing the home page. We don't have a lot of time yet, but what I want to walk through, mainly because this is a SCAMP webinar, is to talk about how the website is used to help people who are trying to find supportive housing or special needs housing, and also how that relates to the registration and listing requirements, which is a lot of what the SCAMP membership is being asked to do by both HSID and the CDC. And one of the key things about how this works is what we call the restricted access system, or access portion of the site. And that's the password, that's the login screen. I'll go back to home. When we do trainings, we show people how to apply to get a password. You just click on apply to become an agency user. You fill out some basic information. That comes to me, and I'm going to just see that you're affiliated with a legitimate service agency or county department or city agency. Then once you have the password and you log in, you're now in really an enhanced version of the website. So you have a few additional features. So one of the things that you will see when you do a search, if you have a password, you now have access to click certain special population filters, like HIV/AIDS or drug or alcohol recovery, and that will just gives you an additional filter to screen for apartments that are willing to market to that population. It doesn't mean that they absolutely are, or that it's an absolute complete list of everyone. It's just an additional tool that says this landlord is willing to market this unit to this population to maybe help you place a client. So this is for the caseworkers and housing locators. What I also wanted to show is the CDC requires that all the units get registered, and of course what we're funding now are the housing with services and a lot of the homeless housing units that are required to go through CES, which we support. However, we're also asking that you register all of the units on the Housing Resource Center, including the ones that will be filled through coordinated entry system. And it's not meant to be an alternative. It's just meant to be an additional source of information, and it will direct people or tell caseworkers that this is going through the coordinated entry system. And it is in the restricted access portion of the site. The public isn't seeing it. So theoretically, or if you have a password and you log in and you're a caseworker, you should be seeing some of these choices. This is more an administrative page, but you should be seeing a special searches choice. And to show you what that is, that's explained here. What the LA County Access Listing Group is explained here. And if I clicked yes to all of these, it just gives me a deeper pool of projects that I'm searching from. But just to show what the Restricted Access Listing Group looks like, I'm just going to show you that list. And because it's relatively new that we've been doing this, there aren't that many properties. I think when there's fewer than 30 properties in a certain category, you can just click to search and you'll see the entire list. So this list is really exactly the same as what Sheila showed you, except I know because it says log out here that I'm still logged in, and I'm looking at the restricted access list of housing with supportive services that the CDC has funded, and that's going to give me just some more information on maybe certain types of housing for certain population types. And I'll show you an example on this one, which was a developer called Emmanuel Senior Housing in Long Beach. They have some units that are going through coordinated entry, and we asked them to explain that here. Currently there's no particular field up here. This is the standard housing locator data. We just asked that the property management or the developer make it very clear there's no direct applications for this unit. They're partnering with Brilliant Corners and DHS to go through the coordinated entry and who to contact for that. And we understand that doesn't mean that that gets a client into the building. It's more just a transparent way of showing the types of special needs housing and what's going through coordinated entry. And from my experience working with caseworkers over the years, going to like the DHS, DMH Housing Institute, is just that this is a really complex area for caseworkers to understand all the different types of housing, how they're funded, and what the requirements are. And so this is just really meant to be a tool to let them see, if they're interested, what's in their area, what's serving their population. And one other thing on the value of using the password is that you can do a saved search. So if you click certain criteria, a good example is people were trying to help people with general relief try and find units below $600, and they can be very hard to find on the system. So you can save a search to say if a one-bedroom or a studio apartment below this rent ever shows up in this area, save my search and it'll send you an email that something's been registered. So that's a tool that's only available to what we call the agency users. And really super quickly, I want to show you one other thing to show you that there are things in development. This is a beta test site for something that we've been working on. We just haven't perfected it yet, but there's so much interest and need to see what the different portfolios are of the city and the county. So we've tried to put everything that the CDC has funded on this list in a way that we could look at it, and another way of just seeing what's out there, what the property is, and then we're trying to find a way to click to a listing to say, is it on the site? Can I see it on the site? So here is a senior housing development in Southgate that the CDC has funded, and it doesn't have permanent supportive. It's just a regular affordable. So that's just a potentially helpful tool that will help us continue to find ways to package and organize the listings of these units to really help all of the stakeholders that Sheila mentioned in her opening. So I'm going to turn back to Sheila so that we can begin to wrap this up. Let me see if I do this correctly. Here we go. Okay, Sheila, did that work for you?
It did. Okay, hopefully everybody can see my screen again. The only other thing that I wanted to make sure I mentioned, since obviously we're talking about the importance of getting the properties on here, connecting with the correct audiences, getting all of that valuable accessible information, the supportive housing units out in front of the public, is adding the rental property. To add a rental property to the system, I know many of you have already used the system and are familiar with it. It's the same process. If you just simply to add a rental property, you just create an account. And to create an account, and I'm on that general access website again, very simple. You just go to create an account, and it just asks for some very basic information. And within that basic information, as Larry had just showed you, those special needs populations, this is where we capture that information kind of behind the scenes to let agencies that work with these consumer groups know if your property is interested in working with these agencies that serve these consumer groups. This is where you indicate that on the form. Very, very few fields to get you started. It's really that simple. Once you fill out this very basic information, you go ahead and assign yourself a new password, and that's it. You have an account. Once you have the account is when we start collecting the information about your property and your unit. I also want to stress, that we never share distribute landlord information ever. This information, we capture on the system for to store in the database only. We never share that information with sell that information with to third parties. Are there any questions that you have at this point? I know it was a lot covered in an hour.
Sheila, should we take some of the questions that have been submitted through the chat box?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. And I'll just read them off, and one of us can take them. The first question is in regard to how the tenant pursues applying for a listing once they've located a fitting property. And yes, we do. Well, if it's a property that's posted through the public portal, then the potential tenant will contact the property manager or go if they feel that they are likely to qualify for that property, because we do also include eligibility criteria within the listings, and perhaps they'll go to submit an application or do so by way of contacting the management company. The next question is, with occupancy rates so high, what is the incentive for landlords to use this system? I'm happy to take that one. I don't know if you do, Larry, if you'd prefer to.
No, go ahead. I may have an ad.
Sure. There's a number of reasons why.
Go ahead, Nina.
Okay. There's a number of reasons why it's beneficial. From a big picture standpoint, we're really looking to create, a comprehensive, as I've said, inventory of housing. So when listings are posted on the site, the folks that are driving this effort from the multiple organizations we've mentioned throughout this presentation that are invested in the system can gain access to the statistics, the listings, the location of those listings. So one reason is just so that we can actually get our finger on the pulse of the supply and demand of housing on a very granular level. And a lot of that data can be used to help create policy and direct funding for future development. So that's one reason. And another reason is just to continue to for affirmative marketing and fair housing, because when you use a system like this, as we've said, with all of the access to the system through the toll-free call center, the multilingual website, the accessible 508 AAA compliant website, then populations that might not be able to gain access to information about your property can do so much easier. So it is a way to fulfill that requirement. And there are some rare cases where, if we're dealing with a waiting list that is quite extensive and lengthy, then, we can still post to the property for the benefit of capturing that comprehensive data set, but not posted as having a waiting list, so that it's still captured within this inventory of the system, but not published to the general public. I hope that answers your question. If anyone else wants to
I could add a few things, Nina.
Go ahead.
So can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this website's been operating for 9 years in the county, and I think it's only scratching the surface on the number of registered landlords, over 11,500. But I never hear of complaints of landlords questioning this or having problems with it. Generally, the experience that I see is the county seeing on behalf of the government agency, the mom and pop landlords and the property management companies don't have a problem, are happy to have a free option that has the kind of support that Emphasis Social Serve gives. And it's a trusted site because it's sponsored by the county, and we make sure that we brand it that way, that landlords can see it's a county website, it's free, it's managed, it's sponsored. And of course there's tons of landlords that may not need it or use it, but what I find and would like to encourage is that I think all the caseworkers out there who may be scouring the bushes for landlords and listings, that if they do find landlords that haven't use this site that they help tell them, are you aware of this resource? And we can provide lobby cards that you can hand out to landlords. And like I said, you don't get a negative response to giving a landlord, here's just another free option for you. And we do go to trade shows, and we are always looking for more ways to fill the supply because the demand is so high. We absolutely are always trying to reach out more and more to the landlord community.
Thank you, Larry. Those are all of the questions that have been posted in the control panel. And if there are others, I believe, depending on time constraints, leave it up to Larry and Sheila if we take them, or we can be contacted, as we've said.
I think we can mention that at the SCAMP conference in September, there'll be a table for the Housing Resource Center, and there may be a panel at the conference. And what we will do through SCAMP, we will continue to do these webinars, and then people can always reach us or just through the call center on the website to request training.
Yes, please don't hesitate to contact us. Training and assistance is always available. So we can follow up the webinar with our contact information again, so everybody has it at the top of their email. And I think other than that, we appreciate everyone's time today.
Yes, thank you all so much for taking the time today. And as Nina said, we'll send you a follow-up email that'll have our contact information, cover a few points, let you know about the marketing information that is available in support of this program. And Larry, do you have anything to add?
Let me see, Sheila. I saw one other question was about wait lists. How many units have wait lists? So that's just to highlight one other thing that does crop up. There are quite a few of these units are on wait lists, and what's really important and why I encourage people to take the trainings and to just surf the site and play with it and use it so that you get comfortable checking the critical information. And one of the most critical things is a unit. Does the landlord say it's available, or is it on a wait list? And as Sheila said, Emphasis and Social Serve reach out regularly to get landlords to confirm that it's available. However, we will always hear complaints that there are some landlords who have advertised it as available and they call and it's not, and there's a feature to file a report on that. I don't know if you can show that, Sheila, but to the extent that Emphasis and Social Serve know there's a problem, they can follow up with it, and if they don't know, there's nothing they can do. And the other thing that some caseworkers didn't know is that we've helped assist with some rapid rehousing programs like First Five, and we've learned that First Five supportive housing rental assistance, and we've learned that they come across a few landlords who maybe run a scam of just collecting application fees, and if you become aware of a landlord doing something unscrupulous, also tell us, because Social Serve and Emphasis can act on that also. So it's really a two-way communication system, and the more that the users interact with us, the more we can address and try and improve issues that come up. And Sheila is showing the report a listing feature right on the results page.
Thank you, Larry.
I think that was it.
Yeah, it was a very important point to make. It all contributes towards the affirmative marketing and how we keep our information current on the system to help serve your communities. But thank you again, everybody. We appreciate your time, and we're always asking for feedback, looking to improve our service. We're constantly improving our service, so please don't hesitate to share any thoughts or suggestions or feedback about the service or the system with us.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.